What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the third episode of the NBA podcast. Joining me, as always, the great and wonderful Connor Renfro. Connor, say what's up to everybody.
How's it going, everybody?
All right, guys. So we just seen the finale of the Warriors and the Pelicans. 10-point loss again. I actually don't even remember the final score from the very first game. But Pelicans, they put up a good fight. Still lose by double digits. Connor, what did you see from this game?
Well, I saw, like we were discussing before the show, some bad coaching decisions, but I saw a lot of good things from New Orleans. Anthony Davis just getting to the line. Saw plenty of Klay Thompson there in the fourth quarter. That's always nice. But Draymond Green, I think he was really the star for Golden State tonight. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him this offseason.
Yeah, definitely. I think he definitely showed how important he was to this team. Like, especially down the stretch, you saw Draymond Green kind of just take over in basically the beginning 4 minutes of the fourth quarter, where he's throwing the alley-oop to Andre Iguodala. He's playing defense on Anthony Davis, shutting him down. I think this is where you're going to see whether or not he's going to get the most improved player award or if he's going to get the defensive player of the award, which is still like both of those awards are kind of like back and forth between Jimmy Butler and him. And I see it going down as Jimmy Butler gets defensive player of the award, and then you'll get Draymond Green getting the most improved. But Connor, do you think he's going to get a max contract in the offseason? Since he will be, what is it, a restricted free agent or unrestricted free agent going into the offseason this year?
I think he's unrestricted. I'll have to check that though. No, I don't see him getting a max deal, especially if he stays with Golden State. I don't think he gets max money. But if he were to go elsewhere, I could see maybe somebody overpaying to get him. He's obviously he's developed nicely, but just for me personally, I haven't seen. I'd like to see him do it over a couple seasons before I give him a max deal. But yeah, I could see a number of teams, giving him a big deal to kind of steal him away.
Yeah, so I kind of want to go move myself back over to the Pelicans right now, and that is I want to get your thoughts on what you think their biggest problem is right now, because we saw it in today's game. They were in it. I mean, they had the lead until basically the ending parts of that second quarter. And, they even put a battle during that third quarter to stay in the game. But the fourth quarter, they just completely collapsed. I mean, what are you seeing? I mean, just from the eye test, I mean, we're not there. We don't get to see them play on a daily basis. But now that we do in the playoffs, we're kind of getting to see things more. So what are you seeing from these last two games that they really need to start addressing going into, game 3?
I see a lot of there's a lack of defensive discipline. I mean, they have loads of great individual defenders. You got Anthony Davis, Omer Asik, Tyreek Evans, Dante Cunningham off the bench. But just they can't seem to really put it together as a team. And part of that's effort, part of that's coaching.
Most of that's coaching.
Yeah, I saw in game 1, Omer Asik just kind of gave Andrew Bogut a backdoor cut, and he was there to contest it, and he just kind of gave up on it. And so I'm not sure if that's I don't really know why they're not giving all the effort they need to all the time. But yeah, I think that's their biggest concern.
One word, coaching. That's why you're not seeing it all the time. I don't normally agree with everything that, Reggie Jackson has to say, but he's right. During most times of this game, they should have been playing small ball. They should have had more Anthony Anderson, more Pondexter in this game, instead of having Omer Ashik in there, because Ashik, he could barely hold on to the basketball to get a rebound. So I mean, why have him in there? He's not doing anything that is benefiting your team. At least when you have small ball in, you can switch. You have to have Golden State switch because there's so many shooting weapons that are out there, and you have to run the offense through Anthony Davis. And they're not doing that. And I think that's a big problem. To see Norris Cole in the fourth quarter have Anthony Davis still at the half court line, Andrew Bogut's down in the paint, and yet he wants to drive it down there on a 3-on-1 situation. That's not smart. That's not a smart play. And then you're saying defensively, I saw multiple times in this game where Tyreke Evans stayed behind a pick, like purposely stayed behind a pick. So and I sound frustrated only because they were in this game, and I really thought they actually can pull, at least make it more interesting down the stretch. But I really think it's coaching. You have to learn to find a way to get Anthony Davis the ball and make him work instead of trying to get him from the mid to high post. You get him down there to where he can definitely execute the play. Every time the ball is in the Pelicans' hands, it should be in Anthony Davis's hands. The team runs through Anthony Davis, and they're just not doing that. And I think if Monty Williams doesn't get fired just because they made the playoffs this year, it's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, well, that's not really the way. Not really the way top tier organizations run. I mean, either the coach is right for your team or he's not. I don't think it should really hinge on whether or not they make the playoffs. But yeah, I think he'll probably stay just because they made the playoffs, and I don't think he should. But yeah, that's just kind of the way it is.
Yeah, there's that report that went out that he was told basically, if you make it's either playoffs or fired. And I really don't understand why the front office would put themselves in a corner to, now that they made the playoffs, that they have to keep with Monty Williams. I mean, he needed to be fired during the middle of the season, in my opinion. He's just not running the team correctly. And there's so much potential there because of the weapons that they do have. I like Tyreke Evans, but he's not a point guard. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. You got to play him off differently. And it's just one of those things where it just kind of frustrates you because you kind of see the potential in this team when it gets it together. But once they start falling apart, I think it's when the coach needs to come in there and know when to call a timeout, which he didn't know how to do in the fourth quarter when the Warriors were trying to get on a run. And, I guess, I don't know. It's just frustrating. I'm frustrated just by watching tonight's game. I've never gotten this frustrated before watching the Pelicans.
Yeah, all well, right. It's the Monty Williams effect.
I hope he gets fired. That's so mean to say, but I hope he gets fired or he improves coaching because I want to see Anthony Davis do really good. Like, I think he can be a top, like top 3. I already said he was top 5. He's a top 5 player because of what he can do, but he can be top 3 if he was coached correctly. But we'll see what happens this offseason. The Pelicans are looking for change. Golden State again wins it 91-80, or was it 101-91? I don't know. It's a 10-point win. Again, today's game was Chicago and Milwaukee. Chicago pulls it out again, and this one got a little feisty. What did you see from this game, Connor?
I liked it. It was a lot of physical play, a lot of defensive, a lot of defensive play. It was a defensive game. I liked, you can't argue with what Jimmy Butler did. 31 points. I liked Michael Carter Williams. He was impressive to me. I didn't like the trade when he was traded to Milwaukee, but he did pretty well. Still not sure if he's the right guy for them, but I liked what he did. Yeah, I thought it was a really good game.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. I like seeing fake NBA fights, where they push each other and then they act like they got punched. I like watching those things. And when you get to see 4 technicals in a matter of like 15 seconds, that's pretty cool too. I like watching that in the middle of the game, especially a playoff game. Or when you see people go to the floor and you push him just because his hand accidentally hit your face. It was an accident when Zaza Pachulia's hand smacked Nikola Mirotic's face, and Mirotic got really mad, like started shoving him. I thought that was hilarious. I loved it. I love watching this game. Bulls won it. I'm seeing it though. I think in Milwaukee, I think it's going to get interesting. I think if Milwaukee can find a way to win just one game, and if it's that very first game, there's a good chance they can win their second game, which would make this series very, very interesting. But I don't know. Game one, when we saw it, Derrick Rose was back. This game, I mean, he started out 0 for 6, and he didn't even score until what, the fourth quarter, third quarter, where he hit a three. So, I mean, what are you seeing from Derrick Rose? What should we be expecting from Derrick Rose in your mind?
Well, I think he's a little trigger happy from the first game. He he likes the three ball a lot more now than he used to, and he didn't have a terrible stat line. He's 15 points, 9 assists. He was on 4 of 14 shooting though, so that's not great.
Yeah.
But I think if he sticks with what he knows, driving to the basket, even if he can't explode to the rim quite like he used to, I think he can make defenses kind of bend to open up some of the other weapons they have. Because I mean, now there's offensive weapons around him. He doesn't have to necessarily get to the basket and score. He can drive in, kick it out to a shooter, kick it to a trailing, mid-range shooter, or he could drive in, kick it to Jimmy Butler, and who can finish the job, because we all know Jimmy Butler can get to the basket as well. But I
After
don't
watching two
honestly.
games, did it kind of change your mind on maybe like the Bulls can possibly now make it to the conference finals? Like, did that ever come in your head? Like after watching game one, I mean, that kind of after game one, it sparked a swirl around, Sports Center, NBA talks, just from everyone. Like, oh, the old Derrick Rose is back. Maybe the Bulls are back. You know what I mean? Like, do you think, or did you ever get that feel while watching these last two games that the Bulls have a chance of winning this now?
Well, in the first game I did, not so much tonight, but yeah, I think if Derrick Rose shoots like he did in game one, yeah, I think they can. I think they can get to the conference finals. I mean, it's possible he could turn into Danny Green and just be on fire. Um, I don't think he will, but yeah, I think if he shoots, if he's taking 12 to 15 shots, whether regardless if they're falling, I think they're all right, even though they're not a great offensive team. So yeah, I think if he could be mildly productive, especially when running the offense instead of scoring, then yeah, I think they have a chance.
You bring up Danny Green, and I'm gonna move on to what the title of the show is. It's Clippers beat Spurs. It was the game last night. It was a headliner game, and it was both yours and mine favorite game to watch. Like that was gonna be our most anticipated game to watch in this playoffs. After watching it, was our anticipation built up for a good reason? Like, were you excited watching this Clippers Spurs game one?
Oh yeah, I think it was great. Chris Paul and Blake Griffin were unstoppable in game one, and you know that the Spurs are going to have some sort of answer in game two. Also, I don't anticipate them shooting as bad as they did. So yeah, I think I said that was my most anticipated series, and gonna stick with that one for right now. Yeah, I think it'll be a great series. I don't know if it'll be interesting to see if Blake Griffin and Chris Paul can keep it up. But I think a big factor in the series will be Tony Parker. I mean, he had kind of a down year. Can he kind of find the spark that he's had the past couple of years in the playoffs?
Yeah, that is the big question because he did not look healthy. I mean, you look at it. I mean, Tiago Splitter looked like he was still run down. And Danny Green, how we just talked about if he can catch fire like Danny Green, but he didn't even catch fire last night. I think he shot like what 1 for 7. So I mean
Yeah,
that was just that's a terrible line. I mean, that could have just been an aberration, but it happened. And I don't see it. I don't see them shooting 30% from 3-point range at all. The ball movement was only kind of there, but I think, like you said, it's going to really come down to whatever Tony Parker can bring. And I don't know if he's fully healthy. And that's going to be a big, big concern going into game two. I'm really excited to see it. But if you have Chris Paul and Blake Griffin working the way they did, and Blake Griffin turns into a highlight film again, like he is just that dunk, and then again on the dunk on, what was it, Aaron Baines?
Yeah.
Man, those were crazy good. I was at Buffalo Wild Wings and I was watching that game. I swear, there was a moment where I was just like, "Ooh, ooh, that was nice." And I don't care if people look at me when I see a nice play, I scream. I'll put my hands up in the air as if I'm watching, like, I don't know, a UFC fight and someone just got knocked out. Because I like watching fun plays. I like watching highlight plays. And even with nice passing, like there's times where you see the Spurs passing game and you're just like, wow, that is just beautiful. It's like when you see a hot girl walk by, you just go, damn, she is hot. When I see the Spurs pass, I'm like, damn, that's some good ass passing. So that's kind of like the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's. I mean, it's pretty ball movement, even if the shot doesn't go down.
So we said Spurs. Move on. Did that game ever change your mind where you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe Clippers doing something different?
No, for right now, no, I don't. I don't think that. I don't think Blake Griffin and Chris Paul can. I think they'll. Obviously, I think they'll be great, but I don't think they can keep it up to that level. Also, the main thing, I don't see the Spurs shooting that bad. At least enough to let the Clippers in. Um, no, I still got Spurs. Spurs in 7.
Spurs in 7. I think I
Yep.
said Spurs in 6. I think it is going to go 7. But do you consider game two a must win for the Spurs now?
Well, they're gonna have to steal one on the road eventually. I think it would do them well to get game two, just kind of get that road win out of the way. But no, I don't think it's a must win.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's not really a must win, but I see them seeing it that way. I think that we're going to see a lot more Tim Duncan in game two. I think Tim Duncan's going to take over. And I could be wrong, but I know we're going to see Tim Duncan take over one of these games where you're going to be like, man, Father Time cannot just catch up to Tim Duncan because he is still, Mr. Fundamental. He's that good. And I think we're going to see it on one of these games. And I'm hoping it's game two because I do want to see the Spurs take one away from the Clippers just because I do want to see it go to 7. And I think if they lose back to back, trying to win back to back in San Antonio would be kind of hard because the Clippers are going to ride with so much momentum. And I kind of want it to be leveled out going into game 3. So that's kind of a personal preference that I hope they win. But either way, I don't see this as a must-win game for San Antonio. All right,
Yeah.
guys. So let's go. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game that we were watching just last night. And that was Dallas and Houston, game 1. Houston wins. I called it that was going to be our upset game. That was going to be I said upset. Dallas takes Houston. And after watching that game 1, my mindset didn't change. I still haven't changed my mind. I still think Dallas will take it, but I think I underestimated Houston at the same time. What did you see from game 1?
Well, it's lots of James Harden free throws. Um, I think he scored 24 on 4 of 11 shooting from the field. So obviously he took a lot of free throws. I think it'll be interesting to see what Dwight Howard can give them. He didn't do all that great Saturday, and they still won. So yeah, he didn't do bad, but yeah, I think that'll be a big thing for Houston. Even though they rely on the three-point shot so much, and a big thing for Dallas is can Rajon Rondo kind of can he start clicking in the system all of a sudden? And I'm not entirely sure he can turn into the player that Dallas thought they were getting when they traded for him.
Yeah, I said this game was yesterday, but it's actually on Saturday, I think. Yeah, it was Saturday.
Yeah, it was.
It's not Sunday. But yeah, I didn't really. The reason why I think I underestimated Houston was because they have all of their key guys still healthy now. I mean, Dwight Howard, he played 17 minutes, but he played a solid 17 minutes. Trevor Ariza's still there, and then like you said, James Harden, gets to the free throw line. What he got there 17 times, 15 out of 17. He what he does with the ball in his hand, he has a usage rate so high because he always has the ball in his hands. I don't know who on Dallas is going to stop him. They tried Rondo. Rondo isn't the same Rondo. He's not 2009 Rondo, so he's not really doing much. They tried Parsons, but Parsons kind of got injured. And so who do they have? They really don't have anyone. They're going to try Al-Farouq Amino, I believe, in the next game. And I think that might help a little, but I don't think it's going to help as much as they think. I think Harden's going to keep drawing those fouls. And this is why I really don't like watching Harden's game, because some of these fouls that I saw, they weren't fouls. And we talked about this on the last episode. That's the one thing I don't like about Harden's game, is that he gets the call. So, but, that's potential MVP right there. So he's going to get him. Another thing I want to look at is Rondo's play. And I kind of want to ask you, do you think having Rondo on the floor is actually hurting Dallas more than it is helping them?
Well, it was pretty clear throughout the regular season that he made their offense worse than Jameer Nelson made it. But I think defensively, he's made them a better team. I think it's not a terrible thing if he's not scoring a lot. But I think it is a pretty detrimental thing if he's not being used a lot to run the offense. And I think he had 5 assists on Saturday. So that's not bad, but that's not all that great. And Dallas isn't a ball movement happy team like San Antonio or Atlanta, where everybody's going to get their assists. So I think that's the main thing. I'm not too concerned about his scoring. What I'm more concerned with is can he run the offense? Because I mean they have the offensive weapons to be an elite offense. They just need to put them together.
Yeah, I think there were moments where you definitely saw Rondo, and he was old Rondo. He was really running the show, especially when Howard was out of the game, so there's no one really down there in the post to stop him. But at the same time, you're watching it, and you kind of see Houston letting him kind of do what he wants to do, because they're going to let him shoot. I mean, that's a given. They're going to let him shoot. And if he gets too close to the inside, they're going to want to foul him so he takes free throws, because he's a terrible free throw shooter. So I honestly think he's hurting the team. And defensively, he is helping the team, but I don't think he's helping them as much as, things will say. I mean, I'm not a huge plus minus guy. Like, I don't really look at that stat when I'm looking at stat lines, but he was a minus 25 while on the floor. He finished with 15 points on 7 to 16 shooting and 5 assists. So, I mean, the line wasn't terrible, but at the same time, I don't know. I'd rather see Monte Ellis have the ball in his hands more than I would Rondo, just because you need more offense. Because the defense that Dallas has isn't already strong. So you're going to try and have to outscore Houston. And I think you have more offensive weapons, or at least I think Dallas has more offensive weapons than Houston right now, just because the injuries that Houston has on their bench.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if down the line a little bit, if after game 2, if tomorrow, if Rondo's just not, if Rick Carlisle sees that it's clear that Rondo's kind of holding him back, it'll be interesting to see if it goes to like a Monte Ellis, Devin Harris, or maybe JJ Barea lineup, or even even Raymond Felton, throw him in there. He can shoot some threes. So yeah, I think that'll be interesting to see how Rick Carlisle manages Rondo's minutes.
I want to move on to the next game, but before I do, I kind of want to get just like what you would think of this. But I mean, what do you think the team would look like if they never made the trade? If they still had Jay Crowder, if they still had Brandon Wright, and they didn't tamper with what was on pace for the number one offense this year. I mean, and maybe just waited until this offseason to find a different type of point guard, and maybe even at the time waited to possibly get Isaiah Thomas from Phoenix. What if that would have happened? Maybe that would have made the team that much better. So I don't know. I just kind of want to get your thoughts on that. Like, what do you think would have happened if? I mean, hindsight's 2020. We can always say what if now because Rondo isn't really working out. But to think about it back, like, what if they would have waited? Do you think this team would have probably been better?
Yeah, I don't think they'd be scoring 110 points a game like they were before the trade, because you just don't typically sustain that type of offense. But yeah, just because Monte Ellis likes the ball in his hand, even though he's playing the two guard spot a lot, he brings it up and he handles a lot. He's not, he doesn't not just catch and shoot, although he can do that, but he likes to create his own shot. And I think now you said something about them possibly trading for Isaiah Thomas, and that would have been interesting because I think he would have been best served coming off the bench like he is in Boston now, and like he was in Phoenix, because I just you put him on the floor with Ellis at the same time, and it just seems like you'd have Brandon Jennings and Monte Ellis Bucks again, where that they are the offense, and yeah, they're going to get their numbers, but the team's not going to be all that great.
All right, guys, I want to hear what you guys think. Leave your guys' comments in the comment section below. Do you think this team would have been better if they would have just not traded for Rondo? I want to know what you guys think. Leave your guys' comments in the comment section below. As we move on to the next game, which was one of the most interesting games to watch, which was, at least for me, it was Memphis and Portland. I liked it a lot. I liked watching it. I think you really saw Memphis turn it on during playoff time. I think that if they keep up this pace, you're going to see this type of game over and over. It completely solidified my pick of choosing Memphis. I think just because of the injuries that Portland has, they just don't have enough offensive weapons now to, really put up a fight against this very gritty defensive team. And when Courtney Lee is hitting shots, or when Bano somehow finds a way to, I don't know. I mean, he had that, he went 5 for 5 at one point. He was throwing up assists. He was not missing at all, like the ball. And he had the NBA fire moment that we were talking about in the last episode. But I mean, I kind of want to go to Portland and ask you, because there's a lot of rumors going around. LaMarcus Aldridge, is there a good chance he won't be a Trailblazer next year?
I heard that report as well. I read a piece on it. I just can't see him. Because if Wesley Matthews hadn't gone down, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. I just can't see him leaving. Such a system that he fits so well into, and now they're finally having success there. I don't see him leaving that. Anything's possible, I guess.
I mean, think about it like this: Wesley Matthews is coming back from an Achilles injury, so historically, it's proven that's very hard to come back from. You have Aaron Aflalo, who, I mean, good veteran player, but, going to be your bench guy. So you're just really hoping Wesley Matthews comes back stronger than ever, or you can go get max money somewhere else and see if they can try and build around you in a different area. Like, I still think New York is going to throw a lot of money at them, but honestly, I see LA being a possible destination for him, because having Kobe and LaMarcus Aldridge would kind of be a nice little team to see. I don't know, because there's also rumors going around, if you go to the Memphis side, that if Memphis doesn't get out of this first round, Marcus Saul could possibly be leaving, although I lay more weight on the whole LaMarcus Aldridge leaving more than I would say Marcus Saul. But let's say you're LaMarcus Aldridge. You're thinking about this Portland team. Wesley Matthews coming back from the Achilles. What is it? Who else is leaving? I cannot think of it. Robin Lopez possibly on the move as well. So you might be losing your big man. And so you're going to be hoping more on Myers Leonard, who's really not that defensive minded. And CJ McCollum, isn't Aaron Aflalo on a final year of his contract as well? So I mean, you're relying on so many different factors to have this team work for you, and you got bumped out of the first round of the playoffs again. I mean, how would that work for you? Like, if you were LaMarcus Aldridge, would you still stay in Portland?
Uh, it's hard to say, but yeah, I mean, he's obviously going to get a lot of attention from other teams, but I mean, he has a pretty good situation in Portland, despite the injuries and all that. But
More fun to see Melo LaMarcus or Lillard LaMarcus or
I'm going to say
Kobe LaMarcus.
Hmm. I'm still going to say Lillard just because Melo's not really a. I feel like with Melo and Lamarcus, they would just kind of they would coexist, and I think it would work, but they wouldn't necessarily. They wouldn't necessarily. It's hard to
It's
say,
hard.
but
It's hard. It's hard. You're stumbling too because it's
yeah,
not hard of a choice.
that they wouldn't necessarily like play off of each other if that makes sense. Um,
They both
because
necessarily play the same position.
uh, what was that?
They both kind of play that same position, like that stretch four role.
Oh
So
yeah, it's like they both create their own offense, and I think they would both do that. Um, but it would be kind of like independent of each other, and I think it would work pretty well. Um, but I'm just not sure you know, I'm not sure they would work
I love these
one
fun little
defensively.
storylines. I love these
Yeah.
small little storylines that are in between games, like the things that don't even matter that's on the court, but I guess it kind of does because it matters on the outlook of the game. I love those little type of storylines. But anyways, let's keep this show going. Let's move over to the East. Let's start with, the fun one, Cleveland and oh man, Boston, right? Yeah, Cleveland and Boston. Rolled off the top of my head there. Was that a fun game for you to watch, or was this more of like a Kyrie Irving, LeBron James show?
No, I enjoyed it. Kelly Olynyk got hot in the first half. Isaiah Thomas was scoring as always. Um, and then Kyrie Irving kind of took over. So yeah, I think it was a really fun game. It was a pretty offensive game. I don't think Boston has any kind of a chance to win the series, but I think it'll be interesting nonetheless.
Will they win a game?
Yeah, I think they win a game in Boston, maybe game 3.
Yeah, I think this was. I think this just showed. Like, I don't think they're gonna win. I think that just get the brooms out. They're getting swept. You can't. You just looking down the stretch. You were kind of hoping for Avery Bradley to hit big shots. Kelly Olynyk. I mean, their biggest closer and shooter is Isaiah Thomas, and then they have to run their offense through Evan Turner. But LeBron James just locked up Evan Turner. So if you're locking up the guy who basically runs the offense, which Evan Turner basically does, I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster, and it's just not working out. I think it's gonna be a same thing as you've seen this time. 13-point loss, 20-point loss. It's not gonna be that much fun to watch. I really didn't have that much fun watching it, only because I kind of felt like the Cavs were just on cruise control this entire game. It just wasn't really there for me. I think I had more fun watching. No, I know for a fact I had more fun watching the Atlanta Hawks versus the Brooklyn Nets, which is a good little leeway going into the next topic here. Brooklyn, Atlanta. You watched it. What did you think about that game?
Well, I think it's evident now that rebounding will be a big storyline for the Hawks. Um, going forward, Brooklyn's Brooklyn's a big team. They have Plumlee and Lopez. They're able to rebound and score, and I think you'll see a lot of Brook Lopez in game 2 and throughout. But I think a big thing for Atlanta will be how much can you get from Paul Millsap with the shoulder injury. Um, he's off of the injury. He's not injured anymore per se, but he just came back from it last game of the regular season. So I think that'll be a big part of what Atlanta does. How far they go is what can Paul Millsap give you.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for Brooklyn's going to be they have to run more through Brook Lopez. Like you said, I think Lopez needs to be more involved in the office. And I think if Lopez has any sense, he's going to go in that locker room and demand that those guards find a way to give him the ball because he needs it. I don't think there's anyone on that Atlanta team that can really stop him. They're a good team defensively minded team, but one on one in any one on one situation, Brook Lopez I think takes them just because he's so offensively gifted. I think Joe Johnson's still going to do his own thing, but I kind of want to hit on Darren Williams a little bit. Paul Pierce said those things about him, saying that he's kind of lazy. He's only playing for the money. And he came out on this game, and you would think he's going to come out with fire to prove all that wrong. Like, I mean, you got me all wrong, Paul Pierce. This is stupid talk. You know what I mean? Like, show that he is a NBA player for a reason. And he still kind of came out lackluster, kind of disappointing.
Well, he had in the there in the first half, he had all the he was getting to the basket, he was scoring, and he looked like Utah Jazz Darren Williams there for a stretch.
He only finished with 13 points, though. I mean, that's what I mean. He had 32 minutes. He shot 5 of 11. He finished with 13 points, 4 rebounds, and only 2 assists as the starting point guard. Only 2 assists.
Yeah, well,
And
that's just kind of how he is now. He's not really that great anymore, to be honest. It's just how it is.
yeah, and see that, and after hearing what Paul Pierce said, like I was kind of hoping to see old Darren Williams. Like I remember watching him with AK-47 and just down there in Utah, just running the show. And it kind of is just like, not that same guy anymore. And I really want to see that guy who arguably was the number 2 point guard. There was times where he goes Chris Paul, Darren Williams. I remember that was just a couple years ago. Chris Paul, Darren Williams, 1-2 best point guards in the NBA, and now it's like, what happened? And I kind of want to see what happens going forward. I want to see Darren Williams be Darren Williams.
Yeah, I'm just I don't really think I don't think he'll ever be. He might show flashes of old Darren Williams, but I don't think he'll even, because right now, I mean, this season he didn't even really play like an above average starting point guard. I don't think he's ever going to be a very good point guard again.
Jared Jack outplayed him. Jared Jack was the starter for what, the whole entire month of February or March.
Yeah.
I mean, Jared Jack outplayed the 3 years ago, arguably the number 2 best point guard in the NBA. That's sad. I mean, that should make you want to be better. I'm not saying Jared Jack's a bad player. I'm just saying you were considered number 2. Paul Pierce just said all these things about you before this game. You need to show why you're getting paid the money you're getting paid. You know what I mean? That would be my mindset. I mean, you're getting paid money to win games and not to lose. Like you got to get paid not to lose. And he's getting paid to kind of just do whatever he wants right now. And I think he just needs to step his game up. And Darren Williams needs to take his game to the next level. All right, so let's go on to our final and last game that we have not talked about yet. It was probably one of the most fun games to watch, probably arguably one or two between this game and the Clippers game, and that was the Washington and the Toronto Raptors. It was a fun one. The only game that went to overtime. The first game for the Toronto Raptors to have an overtime game in the playoffs. What did you think about it? Was this just like two mediocre teams just battling it out to see who can win? Or was this a game where you were watching, Connor, and was just like, these two teams have something special right here?
Oh yeah, I think that'll be a really good series. I'm not too sold on either team going forward. But I mean, yeah, I think it's a good matchup for, it's entertaining. Um, I was very surprised by Paul Pierce, uh, the way he
The
played.
truth.
Yeah, I didn't really see that coming. I figured it would be Bradley Beal, John Wall, maybe Marcin Gortat, kind of getting the hot hand for Washington. So yeah, I think it'll be a really good series. The Raptors have a lot of they have a lot of quick players. So they run kind of a fast paced offense. And then for the Wizards, you got John Wall, who can also get out and run. You got Bradley Beal who can shoot. And then apparently we're gonna get a flashback performance from Paul Pierce every now and then. So yeah, I think it'll be a really good run series.
Yeah, they brought Pierce on for this type of thing where they're going to be wanting to see Paul Pierce take over in playoff games, and that's what he kind of did. He was the leader. There's countless times in this game where you saw him in the huddle or taking people to the side during free throws where he's like, "Hey, you need to do this. Hey, you need to do that." And it was great to see the truth being the truth. I love seeing old school Paul Pierce, and if we can see this, I don't think you're going to see it for a full, was it 6 week playoffs, but to see him do this and to kind of like just duck it down a little bit, maybe like 14 to 16 points a game. That would be kind of nice to see just because they need that leadership. Although what I did not like seeing from Washington, and this could be coaching, this could just be John Wall needs to learn to get him more involved, is Paul Pierce was the hot hand in the fourth quarter and in the overtime series or in the overtime portion of the game. And they kind of still stayed away from Paul Pierce. They went a lot of one-on-one between Beal and Wall, and they still pulled out the game, but it was an ugly way to pull it out in that overtime game. That was just my personal thing that I saw. What about you? What did you see? Did you like the one-on-one play that Randy Whitman called on the certain plays where it's just Wall, Beal, do whatever you want, just run and go at it?
Well, I like anytime John Wall's got his defender one on one up top, I'm gonna give him a good chance. But yeah, I agree with you. I think in especially in the playoffs, you just gotta if there's a hot hand, you just kind of gotta improvise and ride the hot hand.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move over to Toronto's side. Kyle Lowry doesn't really have an all-star performance. He's kind of been playing under all-star level since the all-star break. Do you think he needs to step his game up to another level going into game two? Because, I mean, he fouls out. I thought it was hilarious when you see that he gets fouled out. Brad Beal gets the foul. He waves at him on the sidelines. If you guys haven't seen that, YouTube it. It's hilarious. But, I mean, like, isn't Toronto's game really going to have to start relying on what Kyle Lowry can do? Because he has to start playing back to that all-star level he was playing at towards basically the all-star break of the season, right?
Yeah. I think he was so important to the team all year. Um, I mean, I think you got to have his production. I don't see Gravis Vasquez or Lou Williams really picking up the slack for for an entire series or an entire playoffs, depending on how far they go. Um, so yeah, I think he needs to, and plus he's better defensively than either of those guys. So you need him on the floor for that. Um, but yeah, I think offensively he's kind of he's the motor, and he needs to figure it out because that they rely a lot on his play.
Did watching this game ever change your mind? Because you picked Toronto, I picked Washington. You gonna come over to the Washington side and be a John Wall bandwagon buddy with me? Or are you gonna stay over there in Toronto?
I'm not ready to give up yet. I'm gonna stick with
Okay.
Toronto.
All right, guys. Well, that's our show. We went down through every single game. No, not one of us decided to jump ship from any of our teams quite yet. So we'll see what happens after game two. After these two games just went final today, we'll be doing another show next Sunday, possibly Monday, depending on each other's work schedules here. Mine has been kind of busy. But other than that, yes, we will be doing the show on Sundays, and that's when we will be doing another episode. So, Connor, where can people be finding you online?
And you can still find me on LA Sports Hub and Soaring Down South. Just shut up while I finish this, please. Um, and soon, garnetandblackattack.com. So haven't worked that one out yet. But I'll be there soon.
Oh my goodness. It still makes me laugh. It still makes me laugh. Oh my goodness.
Is this going to be a reoccurring thing every week?
I don't know. I think I'm gonna make an intro where it just says, "Yeah, I'm soaring." I write for soaring down south and Gamecocks. Like that's just gonna be awesome.
No one has brought that to my attention, the soaring down south thing, until you.
Yeah, I guess I have a bad mind when we do these late night shows. It's 10:50 on my end. You're 3 hours ahead of me. So is it 1 o'clock on your end in the Eastern Standard Time? So
Yep.
man, these late night talks, and we're talking about soaring down south and Gamecocks and whatever that last or that last website you wrote for his name was. Oh my goodness. Oh, this show just turned from G to PG real quick. All right, guys. So you can find me online as well. I'm on at VM Center on Twitter. You guys can see me on fansided.com, goldengatesports.com. And if you're looking for any Sacramento Kings news, hop on sackingsnation.com. I also have another YouTube account. It's called For the Kings Court, where basically I do, Kings episodes or coverage of the Sacramento Kings. We've had guests from James Ham, Mark Spears from Yahoo Sports. And this upcoming Thursday, James Ham and I will be reviewing the Sacramento Kings season and expectations going into the off season. So definitely go and subscribe there. Hit that subscribe button right here. Hit that like or dislike button. Leave your comments in the comment section below. And until next time, NBA fans, bye-bye. Soaring down south.